What if governments were never actually trying to replace blockchain, but, absorb it? Imagine a world where literally everything, your identity, your money, your taxes, healthcare, even how you move around, flows through this interconnected blockchain infrastructure operating completely silently in the background. We're not talking about some underground cryptocurrency system here. We're talking about a programmable layer of governance itself. The original promise of all this tech, right, it was transparency, decentralization, total freedom from centralized control. But as institutions and regulators start wiring blockchain into national infrastructure, a totally different reality is emerging. Because the real shift isn't that governments are just using blockchain. It's that blockchain might be quietly transforming into the literal operating system of digital society. Picture these dark, hyper-connected futuristic cities where hidden data is constantly flowing just beneath the surface, connecting banks, identity systems, and public networks into one massive digital layer. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into how biometric systems and digital currencies are fusing together. We'll explore how the exact same technology that was designed to distribute power is now becoming the ultimate foundation for coordinating it on a planetary scale. Because here's the thing, once an infrastructure becomes programmable, well, control becomes programmable too. Before we really get into the weeds, let's get the official disclaimer out of the way. This video on the channel Blockspawn's Funds is created for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or investment advice. Okay, so to truly understand this invisible shift, we have to talk about DPI, or Digital Public Infrastructure. We are way past the era of just talking about crypto. This is about state digital infrastructure. DPI is essentially the foundational tech that forms the backbone of modern society. Think of it kind of like the railways of the 19th century. But in today's digital economy, whoever builds the tracks also gets to decide if you're even allowed to buy a ticket. And right now, the absolute prime example of this being built at a population scale is happening over in India. Now, India obviously didn't build this massive digital backbone overnight. It was seeded through this highly deliberate convergence that they call the Jam Trinity. Basically, they linked up three things: Jandan bank accounts, the Aadhaar biometric identity system, which, by the way, holds the fingerprints and iris scans of over 1 billion people, and widespread mobile phone access. By locking these three layers together, the government laid down the fundamental rails to connect 1.4 billion people directly to the state. It allows welfare and funds to move straight into bank accounts with virtually zero leakage. And building on that massive biometric base, India developed an entire digital stack. It's not just a random list of apps. It's a living, breathing ecosystem. You've got the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, which is processing billions of real-time transactions. We're talking more volume than Visa and MasterCard combined in that region. Add in transparent government finance systems, open commerce networks, and DigiLocker, a secure digital wallet holding billions of authenticated official documents. It is a fully integrated backbone where identity, payments, and data all form this one massive, interoperable public good. So while India scaled up using mobile tech and biometrics, let's pivot over to Europe because they are taking a distinctly blockchain-centric approach. European policymakers are actively teaming up to build EBSI, that's the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. The ultimate goal here: creating a pan-European blockchain network specifically for cross-border public services. They're basically using blockchain to notarize official documents and share trusted data across borders, trying to build a highly secure, citizen-centric model. And how Europe is handling identity inside this system is super interesting. They are pushing a self-sovereign identity model using something called decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. The idea is that instead of your personal info sitting in some massive centralized database owned by a tech giant, DIDs let you control your own credentials. It's kind of like having a digital bouncer. You can mathematically prove you're over 21, for example, without ever revealing your home address or even your real name to the person checking. It protects the underlying data. But, and this is a big but, here is where we hit the absolute core tension of this entire technological shift. On one hand, you have the original ethos of blockchain: peer-to-peer networks, permissionless openness, censorship resistance. But on the flip side, you have the reality of state-integrated infrastructure, which is all about programmable institutional control. Because think about it. If a blockchain is being used to run a smart city or a whole country's identity framework, whoever is running those validating nodes gets the ultimate say over the rules of the game.
And that tension brings us perfectly to one of the largest, most ambitious state-backed infrastructures on the planet, China's blockchain-based service network, or the BSN. It's often described as an Internet of Blockchains. Basically, it's a massive back-end architecture designed to be a standardized platform for deploying blockchain tech globally. It acts almost like a digital Belt and Road initiative, relying on domestic cloud infrastructure from state-owned telecoms to lay down the tracks for global blockchain-based trade.
What's fascinating and a bit unsettling is how the BSN is explicitly described as exporting blockchain with Chinese characteristics. It completely turns Western permissionless ideals completely upside down. We're talking about a permissioned system with known validators. It requires mandatory real identity registration. It enforces state-aligned governance standards, and crucially, it literally has the technical power built in to roll back transactions. It is the perfect illustration of how a state can take the extreme efficiency of a distributed ledger but still deeply embed centralized control and AI monitoring right into the fabric of the network. All right, so infrastructure and identity are just two pieces of the puzzle. The third piece, the fuel for the whole machine, is value. Enter central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Unlike Bitcoin or other decentralized cryptos, a CBDC is digital money issued directly by a central bank. It's denominated in the national currency, backed by sovereign credit, and strictly governed by centralized monetary policy. And when you snap this programmable money together with the programmable identity infrastructure we just talked about, well, the entire system suddenly clicks into place. Just think about the hierarchy of control in a typical CBDC setup. Right up at the very top, you have the central bank holding the master keys, managing the core rulebook, and the actual issuance of the currency. In the middle layer, you have intermediaries, like your everyday commercial banks, handling the processing and getting users registered. And then way down at the bottom are the end users, us, holding our digital wallets. So while moving the money around might feel like a slick peer-to-peer transaction, the rules dictating exactly how, where, and when that money can be spent are totally centralized at the top.
And these isolated domestic systems, they are already starting to sync up globally. Take Project mBridge, for example. It's a major initiative using automated smart contracts to connect completely different economies and their CBDCs. It allows central banks to process cross-border transactions almost instantly. What they are doing is basically building the global plumbing for an entirely new, highly coordinated, multi-jurisdictional financial infrastructure.
Let's walk through what this looks like in practice, because the automated compliance is wild. Imagine you go to initiate a CBDC payment. Instantly, your identity is verified in the background using zero-knowledge proofs. At the exact same microsecond, an AI or a smart contract runs a compliance check against off-chain data, things like global sanctions lists or maybe even credit scores. In a fraction of a second, your transaction is either programmatically approved or it's instantly frozen. The whole thing happens with zero human intervention.
And that brings us to the massive paradox we're facing today. The exact same highly interconnected architecture that allows a government to instantly distribute disaster relief across borders is the exact same architecture that enables automated, real-time behavioral surveillance. If your digital wallet is fully linked to your banking, your healthcare, your public records, then programmable permissions mean the system can instantly freeze your access to society if you trigger a red flag. They don't even need to shut the system down. They just restrict your specific wallet. Transparency and surveillance literally become two sides of the exact same technological coin.
So what we are really witnessing right now is a massive global geopolitical battle to lay the foundational tracks for future governance. This isn't a conspiracy theory. As Tan Min, the Secretary General of the BSN project, explicitly put it, their goal is building an internet backbone where China controls the right to internet access. This is so much bigger than just faster cross-border payments. It is about embedding long-term, inescapable dependencies into the core digital infrastructure of entire nations.
And honestly, just look at how incredibly fast this is all moving, from fringe theory to top-level national strategy. Back in 2018, the BSN was just a concept on paper. By 2019, Europe was already funding the EBSI initiative. By 2020, the BSN launched globally, and almost immediately after, China decisively banned independent crypto to just clear the board entirely. And looking ahead to 2026, we are seeing multi-CBDC and population-scale digital infrastructures preparing to go fully live. The speed of this shift is breathtaking, and it is highly, highly coordinated.
So, pulling it all together, what we are really watching is the real-time construction of a planetary operating system. It's built on interoperable identity frameworks, central bank digital currencies, hidden validator dependencies, and smart contract enforcement. It forms this massive top-down structure, citizens at the bottom interacting through their wallets, platform intermediaries sitting in the middle, and governments holding the master keys at the very top. Identity, finance, healthcare, mobility, it's all collapsing into one single programmable ecosystem.
We are rapidly moving out of the era of decentralized, rebellious ledgers and entering an era of sovereign, highly regulated digital infrastructure. On one hand, this technology promises unprecedented openness and seamless efficiency, but on the other, it lays the groundwork for total surveillance and automated institutional control. So we'll leave you with this final, critical question to chew on. If blockchain truly becomes the mandatory, inescapable infrastructure behind your identity, your money, your governance, and your very access to society, who ultimately controls the system itself?